Today we're going to do something a little different off the beaten path. And I'm aiming this too at the guys from that amazing PA that do the mines and stuff. This is a track rail, okay? This was originally attached to wood. There's two of them that go parallel here. I just uncovered the one because the one's exposed. We dug the other one open a couple years ago here. But that is a sewer substation, okay? There's evidence that there was buildings all over here, cut stone, and there's trash from our local bear. What I did discover when this tree fell down not too long ago, it's a big tree here. I'll show you the tensioning rod. Somewhere here there's a steel rod I cut off around this tree. It's one of the rocks I put under it, but it was protruding out of here. The force of the tree actually, it forced the rod up. It kind of bent it up out of the ground. And I have a metal detector. There's all kinds of stuff in here. But you see, these were building stones. These aren't natural to the theater. And you can see evidence for some of them. This is definitely Irish because they cut keys into the stone so they interlock. If you look at that, that's not natural. That's cut. So that tells me there was a building here. Now they're telling me there was a wash house and an underground tunnel, and that this track went from the livery to the wash tunnel, because when the guys would return from the mine with the donkeys and all stinky, they would go up here to the wash house, and then this would take them back down to the livery where their horses were so they could ride home. See? All kinds of evidence of buildings here. This is more modern, probably not related. Okay, so the problem is mine subsidence. I'm in deep shit here. And naturally, we have a retarded fucking Jew governor, as I have to say it like that. Okay, I get an answering machine. We've got something going on here. My son's truck. He's been too busy to work on it. Now this is on my property, what's going on. All these holes that I'm encountering are pretty much in a linear line. You can see the crushed stone. I've been throwing stone. I must have 2 tons of stone, and it keeps sinking into this hole. Okay, so now we're going to go directly across, because a lot of people maybe can't understand these things. Okay, all these holes that are forming here, they're pretty much in a linear line. Now a truck sunk in here, but this has been steadily going down, and then we have this trajectory of holes. We've got one here. We've got this depression here. Now as you can see, the scape, okay? Some of these could be old tree stumps. They could also be old outhouse holes, okay? But you could see this hole? See the sidewalk? Now, would I believe this is maybe, say, an old cesspool that's sinking in? I would also believe that. But here you go again. See, I've been cutting these people's grass for a couple years, even this unit, and this keeps steadily sinking. Here comes my orange hero. Yep. But you see, and now you can clearly see evidence of buildings. I'll show you the bricks then. But here's another hole. And what it's doing is it's twisting the deck of my tractor so hard that the pulleys from the deck are actually contacting the body. But now you can see here, this is clearly some sort of foundation. Now they're telling me this was once a road that went up to Stockton Road, right here. And it appears that maybe there was a brick wall, because this continues, this raise, if you can see the raise, because you can actually see by the growth of the grass that this part is raised. And I would believe this is a brick wall. And it does go linear all the way up that way. Now they're telling me there was also a tunnel that paralleled this wall. Now, is this the tunnel? Because they're also saying now, through this gentleman, when his father was a coal miner, he's saying they don't have septic, that he blew a hole in a top of the mine and ran their sewage to that hole in the top of the mine. So is there a mine directly right here? Well, since I've been cutting this grass, and this has been steadily sinking over the years, those trees that were planted, right there was a bunch of those big old pines. Okay, they sap up a lot of water. They weigh a ton, but they used to do that to keep the roof of a mine together. The pines produce a lot more. They produce actually a spider-like root over other trees, which the maple and the pine are the most spider-like roots, and they are known for binding ground and also drinking groundwater. These old miners, these old timers, they knew something. So what I'm saying is, let's get to a little more history. I'm going to tell you how this bank of dirt got behind my house. Okay? And again, we see evidence of pine trees, and I believe they were planted. There's actually a big dead one behind my truck that collapsed there in that oak tree. The blight here in Pennsylvania is really killing the trees. Now, the old timers that lived here before they died, June Lewandowski, Nevatnak, which she went batshit crazy. She had brain cancer. I hate to say it, but she really went nuts. She came after me one time with a shovel. You see, there's a depression here. And when you drop something on this ground, it does sound hollow. They're telling me that this was the entrance right here to a bootleg coal mine. And that there's two people that the mine collapsed. You see, the one thing that amazing PA pointed out to me, which is not a good thing, why some of these mines collapsed, they used birch wood. Okay? Birch is a fairly strong, hardy wood when it's young and healthy, but it rots. Unlike oak, that kind of petrifies itself. The insects, we didn't have any natural insects here that really ate birch. That's a birch tree. That's a natural birch here, and they're dying off too. They're getting blighted. All kinds of blight. Okay. Even here, this has sunk down where I'm pointing my camera here. That's a pussycat. One of my feline friends passed away. But when you drop something on this area of the ground, it bounces like it's hollow underneath. Could that be tree roots? There could be a lot of suggestive things, but that's why I'm asking any of you coal crackers out there, and there are coal crackers in other parts of the world and this country. As I say, life is not the same everywhere, okay? But we have a linear depressionage, or depressionage, my pronunciation, maybe I need a beer to straighten me out. These linear depressions, okay, they're all forming in a direct row. Now, maybe when they built these houses, they had a uniform place where they put their septic tanks for the truck's access. That would have occurred between the 1930s when they first started getting indoor bathrooms. Up until the 1930s and 20s here, especially the Great Depression, they were building bathrooms, indoor bathrooms, but they had nowhere to go with the wastewater. And you just can't flush poop out in the street. So they invented cesspools. See, now there's a cesspool. Okay? So are those cesspools maybe that were filled in? You see, this one's never been filled in. This is another illegal alien holding me hostage that owns this. See, I got to cut it. Nobody comes around. And like I said, this township, they're, what's his name? Custician. Him and I are at odds. He's the guy that called the SWAT team on me here. He's a real fucking clown. He's a doctor, he's a lawyer, he's a nurse, he's the zoning officer, he's a building engineer. You know what he really is. He's a fucking jackass. But anyway, that is a cesspool, and that is where they would have an outhouse over the top, And later on, when they made indoor bathrooms, they just put a pipe into it. But that would have had a building over it, and you could see where it's brown here. You can actually see the depression where the building was over the top of this. Now, maybe is that what those are? I wouldn't think they would have located the cesspools that far away from the house. I just don't think so. Now, could there have been garages back there? Look at that landscape, and you can actually see that there's a foundation where that drops off. Okay, was that a parking space? It could be. It could be all those things. But why is that yard? Because I do have a measuring device called a transit with the, I have what they call a slat board. I have the old-fashioned method. I built houses with it, okay? You can get 100%. You don't have to have all those increments. You just have to have your grade and a constant grade and know where your grades are at. That yard has sunken almost 8 inches in the time that I live here. And this ridge here on my yard, we're going to go over here. This is another foundation. They're telling me this was a scale house for the mine. And later on, the people, when the mine closed after the Great Depression, the people put greenhouses here. They turned it in. They took the roof out, put something on it, and took a couple of the walls apart, and they made greenhouses. But you have evidence that there was definitely a foundation of something here. Okay? I have no clue what was here before me. I've actually tried getting, all you get when you call these municipalities, even a historical society, you get an answering machine, and maybe some old dude will call you back that ain't really interested, or you got to go to Google, and well, Google, I consider Google about as accurate as throwing darts with a blindfold on. There's so much bullshit and collusion. The best of bartenders and ex-wives should all be on Google. But we definitely have some linear depressionage going on here, and somebody better take interest in it real quick, because I don't want to end up in a fucking coal mine. And a lot of times when those roofs do drop out, a timber drops out and the roof comes down, you will get a depression like that. It's going to take a couple years before the groundwater really does its job. But you can tell that was not the natural pitch of those yards. We're getting a lot of hard rains and a lot of erosion too. But the thing is, we have grass. And that grass is holding that soil. What is sinking that ground right there? And then when he tells me his father blew a hole in the top of a coal mine and ran their sewage into it, it's telling me my spidey senses are tingling. So I do think we have some serious shit going on here. And then if you look down my driveway, all the way out. Now if you guys have magnification in your videos, you can clearly see those other properties. They're not slanted and slope just like this is. Nowhere near it. Okay? Nowhere near it. Okay? They're not having that problem down that way. But these 2 yards are definitely sinking in, and we're getting those holes. And that's usually a sign of mine subsidence. As I said, subjectively, could it be other things? Well, we have things now called ground penetrating radar. Okay? I do need state officials here with their heads and their asses wired right in the proper equipment. I don't want them to take, usually the MO here is they roll up, they get out of their car, yeah, hi, oh yeah, we'll look at it, and you never see them again. You can't call them, you get the answering machine deal again. This is some serious shit going on, that these yards are sinking in like this. You don't know what that's like trying to cut that on a riding mower. And that's, as I said, when I started taking measurements, is when my riding mower was starting to turn sideways in the middle of what was once a flat yard. I'm taking an interest in it. And you guys should too. Because this state is a sewer hole. Pennsylvania, as I said, I have no respect for that governor. He's a piece of shit. He doesn't even go to veteran celebrations, but he will go to those gay parties. Oh, and here's those rods. This is those tensioner rods. I'm going to see what I can find with my metal detector down there in those lower yards. See, this is how they made tension. I cut this apart because it was about maybe 15 feet long when I got it. Maybe a little shorter. But that's what I found in there. And as you can see, that is some grade A rod. Take a look at that. That all came out of there. And as I said, there's evidence of mining buildings, and then they're telling me up there, okay, which that direction would be almost northwest, okay, that there was a bathhouse, and that the cart, as I said, when they returned from, this was a strip mine. Let's get this straight. This was a strip mine. This came later in the 1950s, 1940s, right around the time of the war. They were mining coal, and then it filled up with water, and then they filled it in. But up there was the bathhouse for the shaft mine. So somewhere close by here, there's a goddamn shaft mine. Now, right across the street from me, as I was saying, they built that dollar store. Right across the street from me, on the other side of these shitty hedges, that's the Junedale mine. And they're clearing that out to build things back there. And I don't know if they're building that stuff right on top of that old shaft mine. But as corrupt as this state is, there's no way in hell. Look at that slag bank. That slag bank came from shaft mine. That did not come from a surface mine. And as a matter of fact, the surface mining today, they dissipate most of the slag banks. They'll put them along the road to keep people out, you know, with enough height. But that slag bank came out of a shaft mine. And that's what all these old timers told me. That came out of the shaft mine. Now they're telling me there's 2 in the back of me here, and there's 2 over here in Junedale, and then there were mine fires. So folks, I got my hands full, because like I said, I'm getting fed more bullshit and lies than the best of bartenders and ex-wives here. Okay? And I contact Mickey Mouse, Donald Duck, and Goofy, and nobody calls me back. I get an answering machine. Is that how we run our state now? I guess it is. But nobody's taking interest, and I'm doing an emergency appeal here to those guys from Amazing PA. They seem to know where these locations are, or maybe they just, it's stuff where they grew up that they encountered as kids, and now they go exploring it. I think they do a hell of a job. They get into places, I mean, Freeland over here is another place where there's mines and offices. There's even cars down in the mine yet, and the town's right on top of the mine. Well, we've got an issue here, and I'm appealing to you guys on YouTube. Anybody that knows anything or has any interest in Pennsylvania state government or works there, hey, get in contact with me here. Something is going on, okay? As I said, you can look down that driveway. There's nothing wrong with them other properties. They don't have holes growing on them in the yard subsiding. Not like this. Somebody give me a call.